Revealed. The incredible secret. Hidden in my husband's safe after losing $18 million and my family. Sarah Williams had once had the world at her feet. A brilliant attorney for a prestigious firm, she often walked through the somber oak doors of the courthouse with her head held high, armed with confidence and tenacity. Now at 38, she could barely muster enough energy to clean the espresso machine. Her fingers trembled as she wiped away the dust that had settled on the family photos. Ghosts of a happier time. The stark contrast between her former life and her current reality gnawed at her psyche. Mark's catastrophic business venture had left them financially and emotionally shattered, stripping them of $18 million and leaving behind an empty shell where their family used to thrive. Every day was a battle against the tide of inadequacy. Their children, once vibrant and affectionate, now kept locked behind their bedroom doors, disengaged and cynical. Sarah felt the distance like a physical weight, each corridor of their home echoing with the absence of laughter. She often stared at Mark, who sat in a daze on the couch, and wondered who he was now. He had always been her rock, dependable and steadfast. Now he was a shadow of the man she had loved. It was during an attempt to disentangle the mess in the attic that she stumbled upon the old safe, half shrouded in cobwebs, tucked away in the corner like an unwanted secret. Mark had never mentioned it, and that piqued Sarah's curiosity. Anxiety coiled tightly in her stomach. What if it contained remnants of their former life, or worse, the ashes of their marriage's fragile trust? For days, Sarah had swung between resolve and fear, contemplating what might be hidden away. Would it reveal hope for their decaying dreams, or tumble out secrets that could shatter whatever was left? With a suffocating breath, she dedicated a weekend to unlocking it, letting dread seep into her bones like a cold draft. She fumbled with the numbers as questions gnawed at her. Was she ready to confront whatever lay inside? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Finally, the satisfactory click echoed in the attic, and she froze, the lid rising in hesitance. Dust wafted around her as she sifted through its contents, each brittle page of a diary striking her heart like a hammer. As she pored over the entries, her hands shook violently. The documents she uncovered weren't just a time capsule. They hinted at a family legacy that could turn their lives around. Mixed with revelations of Mark's hidden risks and indiscretions, they poisoned her mind with conflicting emotions. Her love for him clashed with the instinct to protect their children above all. In the days that followed, Sarah felt the chasm between her and her children widen like a gaping wound. They were pulling away, their conversations fraught with resentment and unspoken fears. One fateful night, she confronted Mark, her stomach churning as she demanded answers. The tension hung in the air like a heavy fog, thick with unresolved issues and whispers of impending doom. Would she dare lay bare these secrets, the shards of their fraying bond? As the night spiraled towards a breaking point, a sudden call shattered her focus. The words on the line crashed over her like a tidal wave. Information about Mark's business dealings. A revelation that could shift everything. Gripping the phone, Sarah's pulse raced, teetering between dread and a flicker of hope. This could alter the course of their family's future, but at what cost? Would facing the truth bring liberation or panic? She stood frozen, every emotion colliding, facing the impending storm ready to break. The path lay ahead, but which road would lead them to safety? The weight of choices loomed like an ominous shadow, ready to swallow them whole. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The voice on the other end of the line was eerily calm, dropping bombshells laced with urgency. Information that could potentially expose more of the tangled web Mark had woven. As the details unraveled, the weight of the revelation crashed over her, a long-hidden venture threatening her already fragile world. Guilt surged through her. Was she prepared to confront Mark with yet another layer of betrayal? Her heart raced at the implications. In that moment, any preconceived notion of weakness or fear shattered. A flicker of resolve ignited within her. Maybe this was the wake-up call she desperately needed. Sarah clutched the phone tightly, her knuckles white. If she could gather enough evidence from this new lead, perhaps she could make informed decisions to safeguard her children's future, to reclaim her power, and, just maybe, to safeguard her family from Mark's mercurial actions. After ending the call, Sarah felt an unsettling urgency to act. The rising tide of emotions didn't allow her time to drown in doubt. She needed to sift through the dossier of documents, meld together the threads of what she had unearthed from the safe with this new intel. A plan formed in her mind, albeit unsettling. Was she prepared to interrogate Mark? To draw out the truth piece by fragile piece? The next day, with her mind set on investigation, she booted up her laptop, combing through details of Mark's past financial dealings. Each click sent an electric current through her veins. As the morning wore on, she dissected piecemeal evidence. Breach of trust, financial risk, wavering loyalty. Each discovery cut deeper than the last. As evening fell, Sarah prepared for confrontation. She could feel her internal resolve hardening like steel, a far cry from the woman who had been paralyzed by despair. She faced Mark across the dining table, silence hanging like a guillotine over them both. He wore an expression of exhaustion, but for the first time, she noticed the flicker of something darker beneath his facade. Defensiveness, perhaps. "Mark," she began, her voice steady yet perceptible to the cracks lurking beneath the surface. "We need to talk. You need to explain everything." As the words left her mouth, she felt power shift. She was no longer a passive observer in this crumbling narrative. Confronting him was her first act of reclamation. Mark blinked, the air between them thick with unspoken truths. "What do you mean by everything?" he asked suspiciously. All of the night spent wrestling with her inner turmoil erupted into that moment. "The safe, your business decisions, the phone call I got last night," she stated, her gaze unwavering. Each syllable fell like a guillotine, slicing through the tension. She scrutinized his reaction. Would he break? Would he lie? Or perhaps, would he finally open up? The shadows of denial flickered in his eyes as the silence stretched on, ready to swallow them both whole. His mouth opened but then closed again, words battling against his consciousness. Sarah's heart raced. The moment she had summoned the courage for had finally arrived. Would it crumble their already fissured bond, or could it forge a new path for them both? As the clock ticked ominously in the background, she sensed impending revelation. Could the truth, however painful, initiate a chance for rebuilding? Would exposed truth safeguard her children's stability, or unleash chaos? The very air crackled with tension, drawing them closer to an inflection point that would change everything. In that moment, she understood that questioning this frail semblance of a future wasn't merely a personal quest. It was the beginning of her reclamation. But she wasn't prepared for the repercussions about to unfold. With every second that passed, the haunting question echoed in her mind. Was she ready to face whatever Mark might reveal next? The real story waited in the silence, the impending clash revealing the stark choices lurking on the horizon. The silence settled heavily between them as Sarah leaned forward, piercing him with her gaze. She sought something, an acknowledgement, an explanation, a glimmer of sincerity. But what met her was a wall of ambiguity. Mark's defenses were up, a fortress built from years of deception and resigned bitterness. His reluctance to speak revealed a deeper truth about their fractured bond. Perhaps it was layered with secrets that transformed their marriage into a room filled with shadows. "Sarah," he finally managed, his tone a mixture of caution and exhaustion. "You don't understand everything." "Then help me understand," she pressed, her voice unwavering. The resolve she had harnessed surged like a tide within her. She would not retreat into the shadows again. As he sank back into his chair, she noticed an imperceptible shift in his demeanor. He seemed contemplative for the first time, trapped in the web of his own deceit. Beneath his surface bravado lay vulnerability, an avenue she hadn't dared explore until now. "Before we married, I thought it was a risk worth taking," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper, cracking under the weight of his admission. "Involving myself with those investors, it was supposed to ensure our future. But I lost control." The confession struck her like a bolt, raw and jarring. Mark was teetering on the edge of honesty, yet the sordid details tangled senselessly in her mind. It was an unplanned revelation that left her wrestling with conflicting emotions. Was she on a precipice of understanding, or merely scratching the surface of a far wider betrayal? 18 million isn't just a number, Mark. It's everything we built. Her frustration bubbled, tethered to the past, yet unyielding in the present. "Our children's future. My future. What were you thinking?" His silence answered louder than words. She clenched her fists, grappling with the weight of this newfound information. The thought of risking her children's welfare for the sake of financial dreams gnawed at her core, forcing her to confront an unspeakable truth about her own choices. Had she been oblivious to these realities? Had love blinded her to the desperate maneuvers of her husband? Inwardly, she wrestled with her own tumultuous emotions, reflecting on the seismic shifts unfolding in her life. Her identity had been intertwined with Mark's ambitions, but she now recognized that his reckless pursuits were not merely about financial gain. They had spiraled into dangerous territories. A critical lesson emerged from this confrontation. Her strength could no longer be defined by his actions. Taking a deep breath, Sarah dressed her simmering anger in purpose. "I won't be a bystander anymore," she vowed. "I will find out the truth behind those investments, even if it means diving deeper into territories I fear." Mark regarded her with a mixture of shock and admiration. For the first time, she wasn't merely his partner. She was becoming an autonomous force, a challenge he had never anticipated. As they faltered through their dialogue, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. She could feel the shift within herself, a perspective birthed out of necessity. She no longer was a passive participant. She had to orchestrate her own narrative now. But even as clarity surged forward, the prospect of what lay ahead sent chills down her spine. With each tangible lead, the danger of unveiling the truth swelled before her. Would the uncovering of Mark's secrets further sever their bond? Or might it offer a chance for authentic rebuilding? This realization pulled her focus sharply back to Mark's avoidant expression. The moment felt poised, aching with the weight of undisclosed information yet to surface. Crowned with determination, she stood tall, suddenly aware that every inquiry she intended to make would not just uncover secrets, but would ultimately unearth her own strength. As she prepared to navigate this precarious journey, a voice inside her urged caution. What if the more she explored, the more perilous the road became? The air was thick with unanswered questions, and the echoes of doubt whispered ever louder. Was the truth what she truly sought? Or was it just more darkness laid upon darkness? The stakes had never felt higher, and deep within, the shadows flickered as she took her first step into the storm. Driven by a newfound resolve, Sarah began her mission the next morning, clad in an outfit that felt surprisingly empowering. A fitted blazer and tailored trousers that gave her an aura of businesslike determination. She navigated through the remnants of the home that had once felt safe, yet now seemed riddled with unspoken truths. The spacious kitchen echoed with the distant laughter of her children, a soundtrack reminding her of everything at stake. Intent on taking control of the narrative, she decided to tackle the most immediate source of mystery, the safe that Mark had mentioned in passing. It held a key to the secrets that had eroded their foundation, and she could not turn away. Now. Each step toward his private office felt like a deliberate dance with destiny, a moment charged with gravity. She hesitated outside the door, her heart racing with a cocktail of anticipation and dread. Perception sharpened. She could feel the walls closing in, memories of their union flashing through her mind. Shared laughter, quiet nights, promises whispered under starlit skies. Yet, intertwined with these cherished moments were shadows of betrayal that lengthened with every beat of her heart. She turned the knob, cringing at the creak that almost echoed her hesitations. The office was dimly lit, providing a sanctuary for hidden truths. Sarah's eyes scanned the room, her focus landing on the imposing safe in the corner. It loomed like a monolith, resolute and indifferent, standing as a testament to what Mark had sought to protect, or conceal. Taking a deep breath, she made her way closer, each step resonating with purpose. She pulled out her phone, fingers trembling slightly as she recorded her observations. Each click added weight to her growing intention. She would document everything she found, even if it was merely a trail leading to heartache. With a growing sense of urgency, Sarah examined the safe's mechanism, her mind racing with the possible codes and combinations Mark had likely used. Finding no standard keypad, her eyes drifted to the subtle clues scattered about. Dates etched into calendars, documents carelessly left behind. She felt an awakening of resourcefulness within her, dismissing the notion that she was merely a wife in distress. She was Sarah, a woman on the precipice of reclaiming her life. After an agonizing few minutes of trial and error, she hit upon a combination. With a gut-wrenching click, the safe swung open. Inside, the contents revealed a chaotic array of files, accounts, contracts, and financial reports that illustrated the tangled web Mark had spun. But among these documents was something wholly unexpected. A folder labeled Contingency Plans. What was this? The words sent tremors through her mind as she began to sift through the files. Her heart raced with the implications of his foresight. This was no ordinary financial strategy. It was a contingency plan for an impending disaster. The pictures painted within these papers made her pulse quicken. The rough outlines of decisions and backdoor dealings she had no inkling of until now. In that moment, a darker truth began to unfurl itself. What if the investments were not merely misguided attempts at securing their future, but part of a more calculated ploy? The speculation gnawed at her, a lingering doubt that dared to twist her foundations as she began to piece together the puzzle. The air shifted, thickening with uncertainty. Sarah realized she was not only uncovering Mark's lies, she was staring into the abyss of their shared existence. How many layers of deceit lay hidden beneath the surface? Would peeling them back lead to liberation, or deeper betrayal? As she tucked the files back into the safe, fresh resolve surged within her veins. She would take this to Mark, demand answers that could no longer be deferred. The confrontation would come, and it would be monumental. And as she left the office, her mind swirling with discoveries and questions, the quiet dread of the confrontation loomed ahead. What would it reveal about Mark? About their marriage? More importantly, what would it reveal about her? Driven by determination but haunted by doubt, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. With every question that bubbled to the surface, she realized that the answers would bring to light not only Mark's hidden truths, but ultimately reshape her very sense of self. The storm was approaching, and she was ready to face it. only she would have to confront the most powerful aspect of her journey. Would she still want Mark after the truth unraveled? Or would this be the end of something she once held dear? The sun dipped low in the sky as Sarah took a moment to breathe. She knew the next step loomed before her like a mounting wave ready to crash. Confrontation was one thing, but the uncertainty of the outcome sent a ripple of anxiety through her. What if Mark's explanations only deepened the wounds? Or worse, what if he turned the tables and painted her as the villain in a narrative she'd never intended to write? Reassessing her strategy, she reminded herself that this was not just about Mark's transgressions. It was about her reclaiming the narrative of her life. Her heart raced at the thought of facing him, but those scattered documents offered whispers of strength she had not known she possessed. The woman who had wandered through life, making decisions based on others' choices, had begun to connect the dots of her own path. As the sky slowly darkened, she crafted the contours of their impending conversation in her mind. She would need to present her findings not as an accusation, but as a catalyst for dialogue. Deep down, she wanted understanding, an ugly truth, if necessary, but one that honored her as an equal participant in their shared plight. Placing one foot in front of the other, she found herself approaching the living room where Mark would soon return from work. The impeccable order of the room mocked her chaotic thoughts. She recalled a time when the decor had symbolized warmth, a haven filled with love. Now each item felt like a prop in a stage play, dissected for meaning in a story she no longer knew how to tell. Moments ticked away in heavy silence until the door opened, and Mark stepped inside. The energy shifted palpably, tension coiling around them. He greeted her with a fervent smile, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Hey, you look great," he said, busily shrugging off his jacket. "Thanks." Her voice was steady, but the edges were frayed. "We need to talk." "What's up?" He glanced at her, intrigue mingling with mild concern. Taking a breath, she raised her chin in defiance. "I went into your office today." He froze for a heartbeat, eyes narrowing. "You what?" "I found the safe," she continued, gauging his reaction. "And I found something interesting inside." Mark's expression shifted, his facade cracking. "What did you find?" The room felt smaller, electric with their unspoken fears. Sarah forged ahead, determination flaring up inside her. "I found contingency plans, financial reports, details you've never shared, Mark. What do you have to say for it?" She watched as he wrestled with her words. Guilt flickered across his face, but confusion quickly nudged it aside. "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain what?" she interrupted, her voice sharper than intended. "That you've been planning for disaster while we've been here pretending everything is fine?" The truth hung between them, heavy with implications and potential revelations. As Mark opened his mouth to respond, the air shifted again. What lay behind his eyes? Fear and possibly something deeper, something she couldn't name yet. Sarah prepared for the impact of his response, knowing it could either draw them closer or rip apart the fabric of their already shaky foundation. This was not merely about Mark's hidden life. It was a journey of understanding her own motives and desires. Would he confront the truth in all its unsettling depth? Could she navigate the aftermath of whatever revelations unfolded? As the moment stretched like a taut string ready to snap, she gripped the armchair, determination electrifying her veins. How far was she willing to force the issue? She would have to find out. The truth awaited their awakening. As Sarah stood in the charged atmosphere, her heartbeat thundering in her ears, Mark's gaze shifted from uncertainty to something more calculating, as if he were weighing his options. The light from the half-draped window illuminated subtle shifts in his posture. Shoulders tightened, fists clenched, the kind of body language that screamed that he was preparing for battle. "Sarah," he began, his voice low, "you shouldn't have gone through my things." There was an edge beneath his calm, a protective defensiveness emerging. Her insides churned in response, but she dug deeper for resolve. And you shouldn't be hiding things from me, Mark. This isn't just about a safe or some documents. It's about us. Each word felt like an anchor, adding weight to the intensity of the moment. He took a step toward her. You're making this sound like I'm some sort of villain. I've worked hard for this family, for our future. His defense lit a flame of anger mixed with desperation within her. Is that what all this is? Planning for a future you think I won't be a part of? Responses spiraled in her mind. Strategies. Possible outcomes. But today she wasn't just a passive player on this stage. The urgency to unveil the truth surged through her, prompting her to challenge him head-on. Tell me why you felt the need to have a safety plan. If you saw our life as a shared partnership, you wouldn't have felt the need for deceit. Mark's eyes darted away for a moment, the crack in his armor revealing glimpses of vulnerability. You don't understand? Then make me understand. The fervent plea hung in the air, trembling at the edges of her hope. I want the truth, not smokescreens and half-hearted explanations. He looked her straight in the eye, and for a fleeting second, she saw something. A trace of fear. A flicker of recognition that perhaps he was cornered in this web of his own making. It's complicated, he murmured, the wall between them seeming to close, preparing to shut her out again. No, it's not complicated, to be honest. Sarah took a step closer, feeling the force of her bravery swell. Complicated is where you're trying to hide from me. If we're going to move forward, you need to share whatever demons are haunting you. He inhaled sharply, the tension in the room palpable. What if I've made choices I can't take back? That revelation stung. It provoked images of their life together, a montage of naive bliss overshadowed by this growing chasm of deceit. But Sarah seized this moment. This was her opportunity. Then show me those consequences. Share your truth, and maybe we can find a way back together. Mark's demeanor faltered, transparency flitting across his features, as if he were contemplating the weight of clarity against the burden of his lies. As silence enveloped them, Sarah recognized the power of her unanswered questions. For the first time, it wasn't just about Mark's choices. It was about the choices she could make next. Would she remain tethered to the past, or would she forge a new path? One that no longer allowed deceit to seep into their bond. In that breathless moment, curiosity morphed into something more profound. A confrontational threshold loomed before her. But even more unsettling was the stirring awareness that her path ahead was unfolding, not just in relation to Mark, but in how she planned to deal with her own hidden truths. The door to honest dialogue creaked open, yet the darkness beyond remained an intimidating unknown. Would she be able to embrace her own fears as readily as she demanded he confront his? As Mark prepared to finally reveal his truths, Sarah steadied herself, ready to navigate the tumultuous waters of this confrontation, aware that the choices they both made today would irreversibly shape their futures. The moment had come, yet she wondered, what else would they discover about themselves once these secrets unraveled? The air between them crackled, electric with potential. As Mark seemed to weigh the burden of his truth against an unseen precipice, Sarah's legs felt like they were rooted to the floor. She stepped back slightly, creating space. Not just between them physically, but emotionally, preparing herself for whatever tempest he might unleash. Every choice I made. It wasn't just for myself. It was for you. For us. He said finally, the words hesitant and tinged with guilt. She felt the tremors of his confession reverberate through her, but a spiraling doubt began to pool in her stomach. How could he justify keeping secrets under the guise of protection? Mark, protection doesn't come through silencing the other person or making deceptive choices. We can't build a future on a foundation of lies. Her voice, steady yet soft, felt foreign but empowering. The moment was redefining her. She was no longer just a daughter or a wife, but a force determined to uncover the truth. His expression shifted again, a complex blend of anguish and defiance. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to hide things from you? I wanted to make sure we wouldn't lose everything. Again." He winced, each word clawing at old wounds. There it was. The unspoken trauma that had long lingered between them. The echoes of an unforeseen financial disaster that had once threatened to engulf their lives. She remembered the sleepless nights spent piecing together scraps of hope amid turmoil. "What happened, Mark?" The question slipped out, shaky yet resolute. "What are you not telling me that makes this situation seem so dire? I had to keep a safety net," he finally confessed, his voice breaking. "After the last crisis, everything I did was to ensure we would never be in that position again. But it spiraled. I made investments. Bad investments. I didn't tell you because I thought I could fix it. I thought I could handle it." As he spoke, the enormity of his confession sank in. An entirely different world had existed behind the safe he'd barricaded from her. With each revelation, Sarah confronted the tangled web of their lives, erupting into an unrecognizable mess. "You thought by shutting me out you'd protect me?" She could almost feel a bitter laugh bubbling inside her, but it wouldn't surface. Instead, she held her ground, searching his face for even a flicker of honesty. "How could you think that leaving me in the dark protected anything? We were a team, Mark. We were supposed to share those burdens." His silence spoke volumes, each second stretching into eternity. The room felt constricting, the air thick with unsaid words and buried anger. She could sense the tides shifting. Today was not just about confronting Mark, but herself. Did she have what it took to contend with the truth? Could they reconstruct the very foundation of their life together? Or were they merely two ships passing in turbulent waters, forever altered by unseen depths? "Tell me everything," she insisted, her voice steadier now. "Every single detail, Mark." The urgency in her own demand shifted the atmosphere, as if she were summoning a transformation, not just in him, but in herself. The conflict raged internally. For too long, she had overlooked her own contributions to their entangled lives. She had suppressed her ambitions in the wake of his failures, and it felt like time was now pressuring her to reclaim authority over her own narrative. As he began speaking, laying bare the extent of his financial blunders, Sarah listened with a newfound resolve. Understanding was not an endpoint today. It was the first step toward her reclamation. "This is not just about you revealing your secrets, Mark. It's about me uncovering mine too." The stakes had risen, transforming the intimate exchange into an exploration of vulnerability and strength. The vulnerabilities they feared to reveal would be instrumental in moving forward. But it was not just his secrets weighing on her mind. Sarah felt a compelling urge to confront her own buried aspirations and fears, both personal and professional. Would revealing her own truths, much like his, empower her to write her own story anew? And as he faltered, she sensed the lines of their partnership shifting. Their shared ambitions lay in ruins, and now, resilience would be their only salvage. "Mark," she pressed gently but firmly, "if we are to survive this, we both have to be brave enough to reveal our truths." With every layer peeled back, they would uncover not just the weaknesses, but the latent strength that had lain dormant in the shadows. But as her gaze locked onto his, a thought surged. Confronting their truths meant facing the lurking uncertainties that shadowed their future. Would both their revelations lead to healing, or ultimately sever their already fragile bond? The answer lingered in the charged air, hanging uncomfortably, painfully, in the space that once echoed with secrets. With intuition urging her onward, she nodded resolutely. The moment for facing whatever was ahead was near. But would they emerge whole, or would they fracture under the weight of their revelations? The atmosphere around Sarah felt loaded, as if the very air conspired to weigh down her thoughts. As Mark hesitated, words caught in the gears of his anxiety, she sensed a shift deep within herself, a pull toward clarity that she had long suppressed. This moment was not merely about exposing Mark's mistakes. It was about unraveling the tightly bound layers of her own existence. Why didn't you involve me in any of this? Her voice, edgier now, cut through the heaviness. It had evolved from a question into an accusation, sharp with the bitterness that had been brewing under the surface. The reality dawned on her. The narrative they had co-authored was riddled with her own forfeited agency. Mark's gaze fell, a reflection of the weight he bore. I thought I could protect you. I thought it might save us. Save us? Sarah couldn't contain the incredulity in her tone. You mean to protect yourself from facing the consequences? From being vulnerable? She realized how long she had walked side by side with a partner whose vision had gradually become a prison, locking her out of shared burdens. He looked up, the despair etched on his face, unmistakable. I was afraid of losing you again. The financial fallout from the last crisis almost broke us. I didn't want to drag you down. This confession flipped a switch within her. The defensiveness she felt started to dissipate, becoming a channel for empowerment. I cannot be saved through deception, Mark. I need to be part of our reality, even if it's messy. The fight in her words ignited something in her, a realization that she deserved clarity, not just for him, but for her own sake. As he outlined the dimensions of his financial missteps, she noted not just the facts, but the threads that tied them to her own choices. Couldn't she see her responses as just as significant as his errors? A subtle shift welcomed the discussion into a more profound territory, her own neglected goals. When he faltered, searching for the right words to reveal the full depth of their entanglement, she seized the moment. I have hidden from my dreams too. In the shadow of your failures, I let my career aspirations slip away. No more. The power that surged in her chest demanded liberation, a reckoning with the personal ambitions she had buried over the years. Sarah, I didn't know, he whispered, almost as if that acknowledgement could carve out a path to redemption. She was done with the hands-off approach, the passive acceptance of fate. Igniting her own agency was imperative. It's time for us both to face the truth, together. I won't shrink back anymore. Each word felt like a brick placed firmly, building a wall of resolution that could either fortify their partnership or risk its collapse. Right now, she continued, heat rising in her chest, I want to evaluate my career. I've allowed fear to dictate my choices for too long. You made mistakes, but I can no longer cling to inaction. I need to explore my capabilities, not just as your partner, but as who I truly am. Mark's defensive stance seemed to crack, the russet undercurrents of their conversation inviting an awkward truce. What do you mean? He asked, genuine curiosity mingling with apprehension. I've always been good at planning. She could feel determination bubble inside her. I want to take charge. I need to pull my weight and pursue a career I've always desired, not just one that accommodates your narrative. This includes financial decisions that can revitalize our situation. There it stood, her declaration and his challenge to either support or retreat into the suffocating embrace of control. One thought began to spiral through her mind. What lay on the other side of uncertainty? Could she really face the potential obstacles ahead, or would they become stumbling blocks? Confronting their intertwined truths meant redefining their partnership and confronting her own untapped potential. To truly emerge from the shadows, she mused, they must meld their revelations into a strategy for shared empowerment. As she and Mark locked eyes, Sarah sensed the tenuous line between anticipation and fear. The daunting possibilities lying ahead demanded equal parts revelation and resolve. With the past peeling back, they stood on the precipice of something transformative. Would their journey into vulnerability cultivate a shared path toward a renewed life together? Or would it leave her scrambling to create an identity? The palpable tension lingering in the air prompted a new urgency. Decisions were to be made, and growth beckoned. Would they embrace the unknown ahead? Or would the revelations send them spiraling into an even darker abyss? The weight of her words hung between them, thickening the air, while Sarah's resolve simmered beneath the surface. At that moment, she felt an unsettling mixture of liberation and trepidation. The path she had chosen did not simply challenge Mark, but demanded an encounter with her own identity, long obscured and waiting for recognition. "What does taking charge actually entail for you?" Mark asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. The sincerity in his question compelled her to picture a future beyond the immediate chaos. She had always avoided the conversation about her ambitions, tethered instead to a life lived in the backdrop of their shared narrative. But now she envisioned the colorful spectrum of who she could be. "I want to gain control of our finances and scout job opportunities that align with my skills," she stated, the excitement lacing her voice. "Even if that means stepping into a role I've never undertaken before." A spark ignited in Mark's eyes, a reluctant admiration flickering against the shadows of fear. "You think you can do that?" "Yes," she responded, her heart racing with a mix of adrenaline and certainty. The allure of independence was intoxicating, and each word she spoke became a brick in the foundation of her new reality. "Then we need a plan," Mark replied, his tone shifting. "But what if it doesn't work? What if you fail?" His concern wove through her resolve, but she refused to let it anchor her. "What if I succeed?" she countered, emboldened. "What if I discover strengths I never knew I had?" The question carried a weight of its own, resonating with the unmet potential she could finally sense within. As they mapped out a tentative framework for their financial planning, Sarah's mind danced with possibilities. She penned out budgets she had previously deemed impossible, sketched out career paths that felt like dreams rather than mere aspirations. The steps appeared daunting, yet she felt invigorated, like a phoenix prepared to emerge from the ashes of past complacencies. But darkness lingered nearby, prodding her with nagging uncertainties. What if stepping out meant exposing herself to failure? What if she found herself mired in the same mistakes she feared Mark had made? Yet as they formalized their discussion, she recognized the power of vulnerability. It was riskier to remain stagnant, trapped by inertia. "Why don't you consider collaborating with a mentor?" Mark suggested, breaking her reverie. "Someone who can guide you through this?" The idea took root in her mind, a lifeline she hadn't previously considered. A mentor could provide insight, a critical sounding board through which to process ideas. But doubt clawed at her. Who would take her seriously? Who would believe she could be more than just a supportive partner? Mark seemed to sense the shadow of hesitation cloaking her thoughts. "You're more capable than you realize, Sarah. Let's work on something tangible." At that moment, she felt the familiar flicker of belief reignite. Yet she also recognized the profound shift required not just in her ambitions, but in the dynamics of their partnership. This collaboration would mean equal footing, constant accountability, and the mutual dismantling of the hierarchies they had unwittingly built. As Sarah stepped away from the negotiating table, her thoughts sparked with wonder, unraveling new possibilities in her mind. The notion of pursuing her dreams while supporting Mark felt like a paradox. Yet she embraced this tension, eager to challenge the existing boundaries. But in the depth of her contemplation lingered an unresolved question, a potential landmine of truth that had yet to surface. What shadows of her own past would she need to confront to dissolve the fears entwined with her untested aspirations? The urgency of her journey quickened, as beneath the surface of fresh plans lay the weight of looming revelations. Could she truly redefine not only herself, but also their partnership? And what secrets lay waiting to be uncovered as she gained confidence in her abilities? The next morning, Sarah woke with a blazing determination flickering like a flame within her. Her heart raced not from anxiety, but from the anticipation of a new path unfurling before her. She was ready to shake the dust from the dreams she had tucked away and face each day with purpose. A stark contrast to the indecisiveness that had once clouded her mind. While brewing coffee, she crafted a plan in her mind. Today was not just about confronting the remnants of Mark's decisions. It was about declaring her ownership of their shared narrative. She understood now that achieving her goals required active participation, not passive acceptance. If she wanted to shape a future for her family and herself, she needed to assert her ambitions boldly. Seated at the table, armed with her list of goals, she felt a surge of self-assurance. The plan took shape like a map guiding her through uncharted territory. Clear, actionable steps entwined with her aspirations. She would start by reaching out to former colleagues who had forged their own paths. They could provide insights, mentorship, even job leads that could revive the career she had momentarily abandoned. When Mark joined her, he immediately sensed the shift in her demeanor. "What's going on?" he asked, inquisitive and slightly apprehensive. The remnants of their last conversation hung in the air between them, but instead of dread, she felt illumination. "I have a plan," she declared firmly, looking him in the eye as she spoke. "I've decided to actively pursue my career again, a serious commitment. I want to take charge of our finances, too. I want us to plan together." Mark shifted in his seat, uncertainty flickering across his face. "And what if it doesn't work out? What if you fail?" "Then I'll learn from it," Sarah replied, her voice steady and unwavering. "But I won't let fear dictate my choices anymore. I'm capable of far more than I ever believed." She relished the moment, a stark contrast to the timid responses of her past. Mark's eyes widened with admiration, a subtle shift that illuminated a pathway for their renewed partnership. The delicate dance of trust shifted, and she felt a surge of confidence. As she detailed her aspirations, all while inviting Mark to be an integral part of the process, she felt herself step into the role of a true equal. For the first time, they began to draw plans not just for survival, but for shared aspirations. Weeks passed, and with each encounter with her former colleagues, Sarah grew more confident. The fears that had once clouded her mind began to dissipate. She mapped her path with strategic precision, and small victories piled up from networking to researching positions that aligned with her qualifications. She reveled in reevaluating her worth, setting boundaries with both Mark and those who hadn't previously offered her respect in her role as a professional. When she finally landed a promising interview, the excitement transformed into full-blown enthusiasm. She stood before the mirror that morning, straightening her suit, questioning herself not with doubts, but with affirmations of her capabilities. The darkness that had clouded her thoughts began to lift, filled with the promises of new beginnings. On the day of the interview, Sarah felt a palpable sense of achievement already bubbling inside her, regardless of the outcome. She strode confidently into that conference room, determined to leave a mark. Each question posed to her was met with clarity, her answers resonating, filled with authenticity and strength. After an intense hour, she walked away feeling accomplished, having presented her true self. Not just as Mark's wife, but as Sarah, a woman ready to make her mark on the world. In the following days, Mark had watched her transformation with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. He had never seen her so dedicated, so passionate. Her newfound confidence sparked conversations about communication and shared responsibilities, as Mark slowly began to dismantle the walls he'd built in an effort to protect her. Their discussions deepened, and with each revelation they stripped themselves of pretense. Trust slowly reweaved itself in the creases of their marriage, and they leaned into each other instead of away. Then came the offer. The call that sent shock waves of excitement coursing through her veins. She had secured a position that honored her skills and aspirations, proving to herself and to Mark that pursuit of passion was indeed within reach. That evening she rushed home with the news. Bursting into the living room, she found Mark sitting on the couch. "I got it! I got the job!" she exclaimed, breathless with joy. The look on Mark's face was a mix of surprise and burst pride. He sprang to his feet, engulfing her in an embrace. "You did it! I knew you would!" he cried, and in that moment the weight of their previous burdens lifted, replaced by joy and disbelief. "What's next?" Sarah asked, grinning. "Planning out our financial paths together?" "Absolutely," Mark responded, a newfound light in his eyes, an acknowledgement of their shared journey forward. Their recognition of one another's strengths and pathways had cultivated not just a shared existence, but an unequivocal bond that had been missing from their relationship. As Sarah took a moment to revel in her personal achievement, she basked in the glory of her transformation. She was no longer just an extension of Mark. She had stepped into her autonomy, defined by her aspirations and her self-worth. Together they began weaving new dreams with strands of trust and understanding, crafting a future where her ambitions could thrive alongside his. Their journey had not been easy, but as they moved into their next chapter, filled with hope and promise, they both understood the significance of this evolution. They had turned from shadows into shape, two individual forces ready to forge ahead with renewed appreciation for their shared partnership. Now, it was time to embrace the newfound chapter. Growth, honesty, and the realization that they could achieve anything by standing together. At this moment, Sarah felt a deep-seated satisfaction. She had conquered her fears, transformed her ambitions into reality, and redefined not just her own identity, but the very essence of her relationship. Do not delay. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion and understand the importance of growth and resilience. This is the moment to demonstrate your commitment to personal transformation and empowerment.